What's going on, Doombots? Today we are going to do a character spotlight on Captain Marvel, or Carol Danvers, or Ms. Marvel, or Binary, or whatever version of this character you were introduced to when you first started reading comics. For many people, I assume it was this game, or maybe the MCU. Of which the MCU got a little bit right. A little bit of backstory on Captain Marvel, the character as we know today. She started off as Major Carol Danvers of the not only U.S. Air Force, but NASA, an astronaut. She worked her way up through NASA and accidentally commingled with a Kree known as Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, as a result of some weird science. I could tell you the name. It's the Psych Magnetron, but it doesn't matter. It's comic book logic. Her genetics were intertwined with his, turning her into a mutated Kree almost, but human Kree hybrid. As a result, she gained more powers than a Kree wouldn't be able to generate. From the experiment, from her Kree blood, and from her human lineage. She became Ms. Marvel as she got her powers from Captain Marvel. And then stuff happens. I don't have infinite time to talk about everything, so the long and short of what happened is, as Ms. Marvel, she had quite a bit of, I don't want to say scandalous, but questionable character devices. She was a bit of an alcoholic. You know what? I'm just going to put a link to comics where the original Carol Danvers is not necessarily in the best light. It's almost like nobody at Marvel liked her as a character, kind of like how people treat Spider-Man in the comics. They're not always treated well. So over time, they wrote off Captain Marvel, and she took on his nomer, his title, in honor of him. Also, she might as well, right? Nobody else was using it, and Captain sounds like a really cool title to use as a superhero anyway. Plus, she kind of was a captain, or at least at some points in the comics was. The biggest thing that people note about her is that she is 100% the reason why Rogue has her powers. All the power she has. Rogue's first and only genetic mutation was the ability to absorb human power. As a result of some trickery, Rogue kind of absorbed almost all of Ms. Marvel's life force, leaving her in a vegetative state and retaining more of Ms. Marvel's powers than anybody else. But it's not a conversation about Rogue. She's not even in the game yet. This is a conversation about Captain Marvel. The thing about her, so her first appearance as Ms. Marvel was in 1977, Ms. Marvel issue 1. She showed up as Carol Danvers like in the 60s, late 60s. You see her a lot as Binary around the mid 80s. Becomes a character called Warbird. Eventually, I think it's 2010, 2011, sometime around there, she took on the title of Captain Marvel. I'll put links to most of these comics in the description below. I don't want to bore you everybody with reading. Her powers are a little bit all over the place, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the most recent iteration of her powers based on what she feels like having. So the core of her powers, more or less, is she absorbs sunlight and generates energy from that sunlight. Seems reasonable, right? She has, through that, the ability to fly, superhuman strength, stamina, the whole Captain America suite, we call it, strength, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, very strong. She has the ability to fly and the ability to exist in the vacuum of space whenever she's tapping into her Binary powers. She technically sometimes has precognition. It wasn't a particularly great run of the story, but she has cosmic awareness, which is a thing you've heard me say a couple times. Just basically means I know stuff that's going on. She can regenerate herself by expending her absorbed solar or binary energy. She can't get sick. She won't age. In that way, she's immortal. She can only be killed, but she can't die from natural causes. She can absorb energy through certain forms, depending on the type of energy. Generally speaking, like heat energy, but, you know, whatever. She has the ability to shoot photonic blasts out of her hands. Again, that does drain her, unlike the comic book where she just, or the comic book movie, where she just has infinite energy. More like Iron Man in that the more energy she uses, the less she has. Even then, going binary is not permanent unless someone's writing it that it needs to be for some reason. She does have weaknesses, but that is what it is. She gains some other weird powers. She doesn't have to eat. Obviously, we had that for the whole immortal thing. She can technically, in some comics, work like a Green Lantern, where she can create hard-like constructs from her photonic energy, but basically, in binary form, which is her power form, she is temporarily giving off the power of a white hole, the opposite of a black hole, more or less infinite energy. It's a short period of time. It takes a lot out of her. She goes completely like comatose after she does it in the original runs. Now it's more of a toggle that she uses, kind of like if you watch My Hero Academia, using all for one slight percentage. Pretty reasonable all in all. As far as everything else is concerned, the biggest thing about Captain Marvel is they haven't really kept her standard. Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for his entire existence. There have been things that changed about him. There's been situations that change. But overall, it's very hard to find a run of Spider-Man where he doesn't act like Peter Parker, or of Reed Richards acting like Richards. Captain Marvel has been in, I think, 8 different runs of Captain Marvel comics. Captain Marvel specifically. And then maybe about 4 or 5 different types of runs as Ms. Marvel and other forms. They don't really keep her the same. They just kind of write her as, you know, we would say Superman for most comics. She can do whatever makes sense for the fun of the story. It's hard to nail down. So again, I'm going to put a whole bunch of links in the description below. Hopefully that helps. But now that we're done talking about her as a character in the comic books, we're going to talk about her as a character in the game. So first and foremost, Hero, Cosmic, Bio, great tags, generally speaking, or useful tags, rather. Brawler, Kree, and Military. We've had a long time talking about the military tag. There's not much you need the military for, but the skill military, on the other hand, that's fine. The Kree tag is relevant in a little bit. Makes her viable in some of the nodes in Gamma. Outside of that, not much going in the terms of her. At the time she was released, she was probably the single most powerful character in the game, sans maybe Ultron. This is a long time ago. Times have changed. Now, a little bit less. Taking a quick look at her abilities. Oh, and just ISOs in general. Boosting her damage tends to be beneficial. She doesn't really hit multiple characters, but her passive will. So speaking of her passive, when in binary, gain the original cool kit, gain stats, huge amount of damage, armor, and then a decent chunk of focus and resistance. She doesn't have much in the beginning, but no one did at that time. While in binary, end of turn, attack all enemies for 150% damage. And then on spawn, whole bunch of charge chicanery. Charge is how long she stays in binary. They actually did a great job in this game of depicting her the way the comic books depict her. Then she had a whole bunch of other stuff from military allies. If not in binary, whenever she gains ability energy, she gains a charge. So every turn, or whenever somebody funnels energy into her, you could see a little bit of that happening with characters like at the back in the day. Characters like Kree Noble used to be able to funnel energy to Kree. Wasn't really popular. No one really paid attention to it, but those were cool options. You could throw Shuri with her, and it was a cool thing to see her charge go up. On turn, heal self for 20% max health. Standard regeneration. Really strong character kit at the time. Now, not so much. Binary is just a single target nuke that clears all negative effects from self, which is why it doesn't miss. She can't be blinded. She can't be bled out. So many positives. She can't be immuned or what, disrupted. It all just sticks to her. So she's in a pretty good spot. This attack cannot be dodged or cannot crit, which means it will always hit your opponent's Spider-Man, even though he won't ever get hit by any other attack. Ultimately, this was a really big damage attack at the time, 640% damage. Huge deal. Now, we got characters whose basics do a little bit more than her ult does. Unless you're in Dark Dimension, then she absolutely obliterates you. Warbird was kind of a cute ability. It was a big damage attack that cleared all positive effects. It was kind of the taunt breaker. You used to be able to, rip taunt off somebody. You'd save it for that. Even in early games, you might use this on turn 1 instead of the nuke to get a taunt off of Drax or something, and then start working other characters. Again, I'm sorry. This is the old me talking. These are things that used to be relevant. Now, they're just okay. And then Princess Sparklefist, which is the coolest name they have, hits, chance to chain, if not in binary, gain charge, counterattack breaks this chain, blah, 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 blah. So, here's the thing about her. At one point in time, anyone who's been playing this game for longer than like 2 years will remember the fear of how strong a strong Captain Marvel on like War Defense could be. It almost didn't matter who the rest of the characters were around her because she was the problem. A matter of fact, I could remember personally many times where fighting Captain Marvel just led to me beating 4 people and then having to go back in and solo her with a fully powered team. So she was a big threat. Now, we have a conversation on my stream a lot about useful and usable, right? A spoon is usable to eat a steak, but it is not useful in your steak eating process. Do you know what I mean? You could, in a pinch, use a spoon to cut a steak. It'll take a long time, depending on how you cook the steak, but it's possible, so it's usable. Useful, you would much rather use anything else. Maybe even a fork to rip it apart, or your bare hands. She is usable in a lot of game modes. As we already mentioned, she's okay in war, especially with the Young Avengers team or some Kree hybrid or play around with. She has tags that help her be useful. In Gamma Raid, again, Cosmic and Bio tags are relevant. Brawler is a very relevant tag, especially for some of the challenges that require stuff like that. She has uses. In none of those situations would I recommend her. Maybe Gamma, because it's a little bit easier to work on, like her and Minerva, than the entire Pimtech team. Again, I'm going to date myself when they change that again, and that's not really a conversation. In the early game, she gets a little bit more value because her damage numbers early, low investment, kind of outscale. But even then, with so many of the new characters that come out, she has fallen far by the wayside. Doesn't make her useless. There's still stuff you can do. But 9 out of 10 times, when given the opportunity to spend any gear in a bio character, a brawler character, or a cosmic character, there's gonna be a better option for you. Unfortunately, it's so hard to see how characters fall. She's like a very low B character, and I only give her that higher rating because in case of a free-to-play bonanza or just the lack of access, or maybe you took a break and came back, you can still get some degree of value from her in the game, but it's not any amount that's gonna add up. Her best value is pairing her with some character that gets synergy and just kind of going from there. So she's like a B minus character. I hate to give her a C because, like, as far as I'm concerned, like all minions and Kingpin are C, you know? Maybe Spider-Man right now is working as a C, and I think she's better than most of those characters. I just don't think there's many other characters in that conversation. Assuming that, like, A tier characters are great, S tier are the best tier, and then B are, like, average. She's a little bit on the bottom side of average, and C is just garbage. So we say C, we use dog shit usually in stream. So that's it for Captain Marvel. Ultimately, as a character in the Marvel Universe, she's pretty cool. Sometimes it's easy to hate her, sometimes she does some cool stuff. It's kind of hard to determine which one is the best for you, if you're a reader. If you watch the MCU, there's other things. Maybe she's a little bit too powerful, considering the writing of the script. I don't know. That's your decision to make. I didn't have a problem with the way they portrayed her in the movie because they needed to make her really strong so she could stand up to Thanos. I got it. In the game, though, it's unfortunate to see how the mighty have fallen. I feel like she's a remnant of a design long gone. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any information about her that I have missed or haven't put in the description below, feel free to, by all means, leave it in the comments. Also, I'm supposed to say like, comment, and subscribe. I don't necessarily care. I feel like if you like what I'm doing, you will like, comment, and subscribe anyway. Either way, have a good night, guys. Have a great day. I've been Tony Scangeli, and I will catch you later.